The summer of 2012 will live long in the memory for us in Britain, a seemingly endless stream of golden days as the Olympic Games arrived in London. For me personally, it was a new challenge at a familiar venue as I covered the archery at Lord's of all places. Well, prior to the Games beginning, England started a test series against a mighty South African side led by our now colleague Graham Smith. The series would eventually see South Africa become the #1 test side in the world. The first match of the series was played at the Oval. It was a chastening few days for England's bowlers, put to the sword as Hashim Amla scored an unbeaten 311 in a first innings total of 637 for 2 declared. Just as that remarkable batting performance concluded, I crossed the ground to the pavilion where the England football manager, Roy Hodgson, was waiting in the sunshine. Just a month earlier, Hodgson had seen his side knocked out of Euro 2012 on, you guessed it, penalties against Italy. But here he was enjoying some downtime in South London following his other great sporting passion.
It's such a great experience to watch cricket from this vantage point, you know, where you feel almost that you're part of the game. It's so different to watch it on TV, which is what I normally do.
Yeah. And I mean, the Surrey County Cricket Club is not new to you, is it? I mean, this is your neck of the woods, really, around here, is it?
Oh, yeah, Surrey was my team, as it were, because I was born in Croydon, which was Surrey in those days. It's now really a part of London, but it used to be Croydon, Surrey. So of course, as a child growing up, you support your team, which happened to be Crystal Palace for football and Surrey for cricket. So I have some memories of those days sort of following it. But I only made one visit here, and that was in the early 1960s when I was still a teenager, and that was to see the Australian visiting team.
Ah, why did they draw you here in particular? Just because they're the Aussies, I suppose, are they?
Well, I suppose, you know, they were one of the top teams at the time. I think they were preparing for a test match, and I was a big fan of one of their batsmen, a guy called Neil Harvey. And
you're not alone. Very stylish. He's an old boy now. He's still with us, you know.
Fantastic. It's good to hear. No, he was a wonderfully stylish player. He was everything I would have loved to have been if I'd have had any talent for the game.
Yeah, which you had none, are you saying?
Basically, yes.
Oh, and how do you know that? I mean, did you play a bit? I mean, in school you must have played and so.
Yes, I was lucky to go to a school which had a good cricket team, so we won a couple of finals, and I played a little bit of club cricket after that when I was obviously playing football here. But I left England really to play football in South Africa in 1973, and then again I left in 76 to start my coaching career. So I've had a very long hiatus from the game.
Yeah, and do you feel that you sort of lost touch with cricket? I suppose these days it's easier, isn't it, with the internet and so on to watch, to keep up with things. But I suppose if you're away for that length of time, it's a big chunk away.
Well, my memories really go back to those, you know, players of the 50s and early 60s where, you know, you're young, you sort of really immerse yourself in a sport. I mean, obviously football was always my favourite sport, but I love cricket as well. And from that time, I can remember lots of names and lots of players. But then, as I say, when I went abroad, once you go to Sweden and Switzerland and Italy, you can virtually forget cricket unless you are a real aficionado of the game, because you'd have to work so hard to find out what was going on. Yeah.
But Surrey, of course, were so strong in those days, weren't they? Laker, Locke, PBH May, people like that. I suppose John Edrich starting to break into the scene. Are those the names we're talking about?
Absolutely. Alex Father, of course, Mickey.
Yes.
And I remember
Alec Bedser?
I remember them all, yes. I remember those names, Ken Barrington. I remember all those names very well. And I remember seeing Edrich once bat against in a sort of charity match at Norwood and smash the ball all over the field against these amateurs. So it was... I remember that time very, very well, but of course it's distant memories now because we are talking nigh on 50 years ago, I suppose.
Yeah. He was here a couple of days ago, John, you know, I think on the first day he was here. So there you go. It's lovely when old sportsmen catch up, in fact. Have you ever met him or not?
No.
I mean,
no, to be honest, I haven't met many cricketers at all. I was lucky enough to make Alex acquaintance. I knew Mick, of course, a little bit because he was involved a lot in football. But apart from Mick Stewart and Alec, I can't really say and Bob Willis I've had some contact with, but otherwise I've not been lucky enough to meet many cricketers.
Yeah. In those days, of course, you could combine both sports, couldn't you? I mean, professionally, a colleague of mine, Chris Balderston, he's famed for scoring 100 one day for Leicester at Chesterfield, I think it was, and he nipped up to Doncaster and played a league football match that day, which is sad it doesn't happen anymore. But your season's too long, Roy, it's all trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Games. No, that's right, it is. It's But I mean, cricket's changed a lot, hasn't it? It's changed a lot, not only in the formulas with the 2020s and the one-day cricket, but it's also changed now that the England players are fully professional, and it's obviously impacted, I guess, on county cricket, which I must admit I don't follow to any great extent anymore. But I think it's made the Test cricket and the one-day cricket much more accessible, if you like, to a wider range of people. So I would presume cricket people regard it as a step forward, but I don't know.
No, do you like 2020? Have you seen that, the real quick shortened version form of the game? It's quite lucky, I think, that cricket has these different types of game that it can play and play to a high standard.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think I can enjoy all the forms of the game. I think the 2020 is obviously spectacular. I think I probably would still prefer the one day or even Test cricket because I think, you know, the studying the techniques, I think the tactical side of Test cricket is very, very interesting. Just little things like now, you know, whether the South Africa's going to declare now, whether they're going to go for more.
Just hearing they have done, actually. Well, you've hit the nail. I'm just hearing my headphones, they have declared on 6:37 for 2. So it has happened. So England will be batting shortly, which actually will be a good thing because it'll give you something to watch, won't it? When a bit of intensity.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Obviously enjoy it. As a failed batsman, I prefer watching the batsmen to the bowlers, but having said that, I don't envy the English batsmen because having spent 2 days in the field in this, you know, quite strong heat today, it's going to be hard for them.
Your life's changed, hasn't it? I mean, my word, as soon as people knew that we're here, I mean, there's photographers everywhere, there's kids coming up. How are you finding all that? Do you enjoy it? You seem quite kind of quiet sort of fellow to me.
I don't know that quiet, really. I don't know how much I enjoy it either. I mean, I enjoy the job, and I certainly enjoy being England national team manager, and I accept that a lot of things go with that, but I don't seek out the publicity or the TV cameras or the press cameras, but I realise that they're going to find me, so I'll have to learn to live with it. But in the past, I've always just tried to be as natural as possible, and as a result, I'm sure I shall get caught out on many an occasion in a photograph doing something I perhaps shouldn't be doing, but that's the way.
I'm sure you won't, Roy. Hey, come on. Now, I mean, it's a funny job you've got, isn't it? I mean, it's a fantastic job, but you know, here we are at cricket, watching the England cricket team totally under control of Andy Flower and the board, and they're on central contract, and it's, you know, very much a country first and club second that we have in cricket. Completely opposite to you. Is it frustrating for you, that aspect of it?
Well, it hasn't been so far. I mean, I'm not. It has been in the past when I've coached other national teams. I do realise the club national team conflict's always going to exist, but it was no problem during the Euros. All the clubs were very, very cooperative. We had no problem at all with the players, and I think the national team football probably is still underestimated. The fact that, you know, 22 million people in England tuned in to see our game against Italy is really quite incredible. So I think any time when maybe it's suggested that national team football isn't as important to people as Champions League football, I think we should maybe look at the figures, because certainly more people watched our game against Italy than watched the Champions League final.
Yeah, for what little I know about it, it seems that the public love England football and they want England to do well. It's more of a club issue, is it, with managers and players and so on there, and availability and so on. Is that more where the problem lies?
Well, I think it's not a problem as such, but we can never get away from the fact that we as a national team don't pay the players. You refer to cricket, where the players are contracted and earn their living for playing for England. Our players really, they play for England for the glory, for the honour of representing their country, but their money and their livelihood is provided by the club. So in a conflict situation, it's obviously going to be very difficult for them, because you know, which master do you serve? You know, the master that you want to serve because you happen to be English and want to play for your country, or the person who pays you your wage on which you live.
Yes. So, I mean, I presume you'll see the time coming where I don't know, would there be a conflict where, I don't know, a club is reluctant for a player to play? I mean, how do you deal with that as an England coach?
Well, that has happened many times in the past, and I've been, you know, a party of that when I was in Switzerland or with Finland. You know, you get those situations where clubs have got an important game coming up and would much rather that their players stayed with them and prepared rather than risk injury playing for the national team. But I think it's been much better in recent years now that FIFA have got these dates where league football is closed down for a period of 10 days. Little advantages or little changes are being made all the time which are suitable for the clubs, i.e. it used to be Saturday, Wednesday, so the players would only get back on a Thursday or Friday before the next Saturday game. Now the matches are played Friday and Tuesday, so you've got they're doing the national people are doing everything they can, if you like, to facilitate the fact that the clubs don't suffer too much from loaning their players out.
Yeah. And as for the players, I mean, do you think that they value an England cap like the cricketers do as much? I mean, is it the same value in football now, or again has that become more of a club precedent?
No, I think the players do value it. I know. I've got to say, I certainly saw that with Switzerland and Finland, even with the UAE, if you like, although that was a shorter experience. But my England experience is obviously relatively new, and I should be careful not to make too many bold statements on the evidence of 6 matches, but certainly if the Euros went in to go by and the players we took to the Euros, their commitment to the team, to what we tried to do, to playing for England was first class. And I've certainly got no reason whatsoever to doubt that people still want to play for England.
Yeah. And the pressure, Roy, sitting on the touchline, I mean, helpless, and 23 million watching. I was in the pub, and there's so many experts in there. I mean, they should be all coach of England. They all know what they're doing, shouting and yelling at the telly. How do you put up with all that? And you're the bloke who's got the neck on the line, really.
That's the beauty of football, isn't it? Everyone's played a bit of football, everyone's got an opinion. Cricket to some extent, but maybe to a slightly lesser extent. So you learn to live with that, and I think it's important for the country that this interest, this enthusiasm, this desire for football still exists, and it's given me a very good life, and I enjoy it and I accept the responsibility that goes with it. But obviously as a coach you are limited as to what you can do. You've got your preparation time, and that's really our jobs. We are preparers, we are orchestra leaders, and when the band strikes up, it's up to the musicians to play, really.
Yeah. The Olympics, you looking forward to that? You're going to go along and see a bit of that?
Yes, absolutely. Certainly the football, I'm going to be very much, interested in that, because
Are you part of that at all?
No, not really. I mean, Stuart has, got total autonomy there. I mean, he's been kind enough to share some of his thoughts with me, but basically it's his team, and everything there is what he wants to do, and the team is his team. What I'm interested in, of course, is several of the players that he's selected are players who might very well be interesting for me in the first national team as well. And if I can get to any of the other Olympic events, I'd be delighted. I was lucky enough to meet Lord Coe, he did say that if I wanted to go to an event, he'd try and help me. So
well, you're going to the top man there, Roy.
I hope he's listening to this interview, because I'm probably going to be too shy to contact him directly and ask him, but it would be nice to go, yeah.
Well, it's 100-metre final or something like that, it'll do you, will it?
Oh, I'd settle for much less than that.
But it's funny, because a football event, again, people say, it's Great Britain, it's a kind of a strange sort of mishmash of things. I mean, it'll clearly be taken very seriously by those involved, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's going to be a very good event, and England's group's a very interesting one with Senegal, the UAE and Uruguay. There's some very strong teams, Brazil, Argentina, Spain. I think it's going to be a very, very good competition, because now it's open to the top professionals. It's very different to the old days when, basically the football in the Olympics was totally different to professional football. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah. Was there room for sentiment with David Beckham? I don't know, in this sort of put together team, an amalgamated team, would that have been a nice thing to have done, or is sentiment not really in it?
Well, I've not been involved in that at all. As I say, that was Stuart, I think, was given the autonomy to select the team and the players he wanted, and his decision was that David wouldn't be part of it, and I certainly don't want to be involved in any comments with regard to that. It wouldn't be appropriate, and basically I'm sure I've been away during that time in actual fact, but I'm pretty sure the decision not to select him has been debated pretty thoroughly during that time, but I've not really been a part of it.
No, fair enough. I want to hear a Roy Hodgson team talk, because here we are, Roy, we're up against it. It's back to the walls. It's not even a penalty shootout. What are you going to say to those two batsmen in there who are going to go out here and face possibly the fastest bowling attack in the world? All these people, country depending upon them. What are you going to say, Roy? Well,
they know those things. I mean, basically speaking, it would be wrong to talk about that, because that's a given. If you're Andrew Strauss or as the cook, you know pretty well what's required of you. I think the most important thing will be to show them you've got every confidence in them, to impress upon them that, you know, they do need to get us off to a good start, and that they need to, you know, bring everything that they've got to the table. But in these situations, I think there's only one thing to do. You've got to stay in the game. I mean, you know, you're down, but you're never out. You know, it's important just to stay in the game. Even if we were to lose an early wicket, there's such a strong batting lineup. People have just got to keep believing. They've got to stay in it, because who knows? You know, we could be looking in a perilous position at the end of the day, and then tomorrow 2 players will get together and put on a fantastic partnership, like we've seen the South Africans do now on 3 occasions. Firstly with Smith and Amla, and now with Amla and Callis.
Yeah, there's a lot of talking involved, isn't there? Actually, I guess. I mean, and do you treat individuals very differently? I mean, the makeup of a team is just so many different people, isn't it? Different types of people, different characters.
Oh, it will be completely foolish to think that you can give one team talk which is going to embrace everybody and get through to everyone in the same way. I think the discussions you have with individuals, the talks you have with individuals, which really just back up the type of work you do in your training. And of course, I'll be very interested to meet with Andy Flower. I hope that's going to come off. I think
it will be.
I believe it's planned that Stuart Lancaster, he and I shall meet and discuss things. One of the things that will interest me, of course, is, you know, how they use their training time, what they do in the training sessions, and how they, you know, use that time, if you like, in preparation, and how they supplement it, if you like, by speaking individually to the players and trying to, you know, find out as much about them, or trying to find out what little words of advice that they could maybe sometimes give there that would hit home.
Fascinating. He's a very calm, very collected, very calculating man, Andy Flower, and a very fine player, of course. I mean, he played at the top level. Have you ever found any issues with that? With you? You weren't at the very top of the game. Have you ever found any players turning around saying, "Oh, you know, what do you know about it? You haven't been out there and done it," sort of thing? Is that ever an issue?
No, I don't think. I've been lucky. I can't say that that's happened to me too often. It could do, of course, but it can also happen to you. If you've been a great player, the players might still be prepared to turn around and say, "What do you know about it?" despite the fact that you've got lots of caps to your name. But I think when you start off and you're younger, it's more of a concern. But, you know, obviously players want players around them and coaches to coach them. You know, they're not that interested that the coach happens to have been a much better player than maybe they were or are, and the players around them are. They want their coach to be a good coach, and they want the players around them to be good players.
Wonderful memories of that summer. Hodgson went on to manage England up until 2016 before moving back to club management with Crystal Palace.